Sam, I'll hand it to you.
Thanks for being here, everyone. It's an exciting day. Our future is certainly looking bright. We're very proud of the work that Ron and the whole hockey operations team has done to build this hockey organization completely from scratch, including a quality group of veteran players here in Seattle, as well as a great group of prospects all around the world and down in Coachella Valley. The success that we've had in Coachella Valley with our Firebirds has been remarkable. 2 seasons in a row, deep into the playoffs. But it hasn't just been about winning, it's been about developing our players. And today that success directly connects to our future, with someone who knows the young guys, but has also had success in the NHL at the highest level. Because developing our players is going to be crucial for the success of the future of this organization, but so is improving now, and we can do both. We really believe our best days are coming soon, and I'm thrilled with the announcement today. Welcome to Dan. Ron?
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. As Chris said, this is an exciting day for the Seattle Kraken and an important day, not only as we head into next season, but beyond. Along with Sam and our ownership group, we continue to take steps to try and improve and build a championship franchise for our fans in the great city of Seattle. Obviously, a big part of that is hiring the right head coach, and we did a thorough search, interviewed a lot of quality candidates who I have a lot of respect for, and ultimately made the decision that Dan was the right guy to lead us. You look at his track record, he's won a Stanley Cup in Pittsburgh, he's won the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year in the NHL, he got the opportunity to coach the U.S. Olympic team, and most recently you look at what he's done in Coachella Valley the last couple of years for us. It was heartbreaking, but he got within a Game 7 overtime goal of winning the Calder Cup last year. And again, he's got him well positioned as one of the final 4 teams competing for the Calder Cup again this year. And I think if you look at Dan and talk to some of his players, there's a passion that he brings to the rink each and every day. He works and strives to build relationships with his players, and yet he's still firm with them, but I would say fair in his approach to doing that. And those are all traits we thought were important as we move them here to Seattle and work with our players here with the Kraken. So before I introduce them, I'd like to show this video that our team put together. On behalf of the Seattle Kraken, our great fans, I want to welcome Dan and his wife, Mary Beth, who's in the room, to our organization. Dan, microphone's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. And being able to find a clip of me scoring a goal is evidence of the great work that's already happening here in Seattle. But on behalf of my family, my wife, Mary Beth, is in the back of the room joining us today, and my son, Brian. We're extremely excited and honored and privileged to be joining the Seattle Kraken organization, but this amazing city as well, and the amazing fan base that has already been established with the Kraken here in the first 3 years. To Samantha and the ownership group, I have had the opportunity to be here for the last 3 years in the organization, witness the passion and the vision that you've created, that the ownership group has created for this franchise, and I'm privileged that you believe that I'm the guy to join you in that journey, and so I'm thankful for that. Ron, I think coaching in the National Hockey League is an extreme honor and privilege, and it's a partnership with the organization and the GM, and I think over the last 3 years, I'm truly honored that you think I'm the guy to do that for you and your team, so thank you for that. And I think being in the organization for the last 3 years, I've been witness to the path of the organization's on, and the young players that are coming into the organization, and drafts that have happened. I think there's a lot of great players coming down the pipe. Coachella Valley with some of the players that we've developed there and have come on to the Kraken, but also with the veteran players that are here and assembled now. We have a great group of leaders. We have a great group of players, and I think they're a group that we can have a lot of success with down the road in building this championship organization. So thank you for all those. Thank you for that. And having said all that, it hangs in the balance that I still have some other things to do in Coachella Valley. So we got game one tomorrow. I'm looking very much forward to spending time with you here right now, but getting on the plane and getting back to Coachella Valley and get on with game one. I think the what we've built in Coachella Valley with the community and the fans and the team is a large part of me being here today. So I thank you to everyone in Coachella Valley, the ownership, the Troy Bodie, the management, the coaches, the players. We still got some work to do, so I'm going to get out of here immediately, right now, and go go there and start the playoff series against Milwaukee.
Jen Mueller from Root Sports. Dan, we saw you smiling through that video. You've done just about everything in your career. What makes this opportunity special?
You know what? I'm a pretty present and focused individual for the now and the moment, and that's all nice to see that stuff up there. But for the team, for the players, it's all about right now and this moment. And I said I'm just I'm thankful for the opportunity for the moment to be now, and I think it's with good people and a good organization and with good players. And for me, it was a great fit for this to be the next opportunity for me.
Ron, Chris Francis from Cairo 7 News. What makes Dan, in terms of style play on the ice, what we'll see on the ice next year, what makes Dan different than this system we had last year?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of similarities. I mean, we'll discuss some of the things here as we move forward, things we want to tweak that maybe we weren't doing as well last year. Our offense certainly fell off, so we need to find a way to kind of tweak some things in the offensive zone to get offense back. But as I said in my opening, I mean, he brings a passion to the rink every day. His teams play hard every night. You watch them play. The thing that's been exciting for me is, year one down there, we had an extremely veteran team, and they were still able to get to the Calder Cup finals. This year we transitioned over. We're no longer one of the older teams in the league. We're one of the younger teams in the league. A lot of young kids coming into our lineup, and yet they were still to get to the Final Four and hopefully beyond as they move forward here. But a lot of progress, not only from our veterans that have been there, but our young kids that have been there. And the Kraken fans saw a little bit of that in, Ty Cartier coming up, Riker Evans coming up. They got a taste at the end of the year with Wright and Winterton and Morrison, and there's some other young players that have progressed as well. So I think the ability with our team, which has a mix of that, the veteran guys, the young guys that I mentioned, Matty also being a young guy, I think Dan's personality and style of how he coaches will mesh well with our locker room and help get the best out of our players.
From Como News here in town. Good to see you guys. And actually a question for both of you. For Ron, Dan's experience with those young guys you just mentioned, how important was that as he went through the process? And then for Dan, the ability, the chance to continue that development with those guys as more and more of them arrive here in Seattle.
Yeah, obviously it's important. I don't want to slight. We got a team here that we're focused on. A lot of the younger kids were down there that he worked with, but I think just how he worked through both the veterans and the young kids, like I said, I think will bode well for our team here. But certainly, if you look down the road, and we have a lot of good pieces coming, and Dan and his staff have showed that they can develop young players as well as veteran guys. So that's important in making this decision.
News. For the record, you did score 19 NHL goals.
I guess I shouldn't say thank you. That's highlighting that I didn't score very many. But
two things. One is, how are you coping with the 40-degree temperature change?
Actually, it's more my style than 115 degree. We like the warm weather, but I'm most comfortable in 65 and wearing a sweatshirt, and so we were more than happy to step off the plane yesterday and be greeted by this beautiful weather here in Seattle.
And I heard you say recently, you were talking about how young players have changed from when you were a young player in the 90s, and you answered that it was more incumbent on coaches to change from the way they had been coaching. Why is that? I think
let's go back a long time ago. As coaches or as players, we got told what to do, and we received it anyway we knew how to receive it. And I think today and my coaching style, it's about relationships. It's about getting on the same page with the player and the individual, and they're a part of it. They want to be a part of it. They want to have the discussion. They want to have a clear plan and message as to how they can get better and how they can improve and how the team can play and be successful. And so there's a much bigger onus on the coach to be able to establish relationships with not only each and every individual on the team, but also the team as a whole. And as I said, it's incumbent on the coach to make that change in how he coaches. And kind of for me and my journey over the last 15 years of coaching has been just that.
Dan and Tim Booth from the Associated Press. Welcome to Seattle.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, it's been several years now since you've been behind an NHL bench running it. Was getting back to this point a goal of yours at some point in your career, or were you kind of not resigned but happy with the roles that you were taking on as an assistant or working in the minors?
I think my coaching journey over the last 4 years has led me to this point. 4 years ago, I think I needed to discover the joy of coaching again and changing a little bit and establishing relationships with the players. And having done that over the past 3 years, it's led me to this wanting to be the opportunity that I took next. So yes, in the last few years in Coachella and how our teams played, how the players reacted to me, how we came together as a group has reignited my desire to be at the National Hockey League level. So it's kind of my journey that's led me to this point, and one I think I'm better prepared for now than maybe I was 4 years ago when I referenced that time point.
Baker from the Seattle Times. Welcome to Seattle.
Thank you.
Along the lines of the previous question, I'm just wondering where you think your coaching style and approach with players has changed the most since you left Buffalo. Let's say in terms of temperament, in terms of just your overall relationships.
Probably just the joy of what Ron mentioned about what he's witnessed over the last 2 years, 3 years, when connecting with the players, coaching the players, developing the team, has been kind of where I think I've improved as a coach and what I've wanted to improve as a coach. And I think it can be a little bit difficult when you get to the National Hockey League to do that. And this time around, it won't be. That's for sure.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. Ron, for you, what was maybe different about this coaching search compared to the last coaching search you've had, as well as other coaching searches you've had? And Dan, for you, in terms of the patience you've had to show the last few years, what was maybe the most challenging part of that patience, or was there anything challenging about being this patient?
Yeah, I mean, it's just different timeline, right? When last time we're starting up. There's a lot of things that you're factoring in, the expansion draft, moving everybody from wherever they are in the world to Seattle in 30 days and getting up and running. So a little bit different that run. We're more established now with not only our team here, our team in CV, the prospects in KC, which are in the finals now in the Allen Cup, which is exciting to see for those kids down there. But and as you know, as you look at all the prospects we have in the pipeline too. So it's a little different position where the organization is. Truth be told, I did interview Dan way back in the day when I was in Carolina. He didn't have interest in my job at that point. So our paths crossed again a few years ago with the opportunity in CV and, the willingness to take the job. The first year was not easy. It was in Charlotte. As an assistant coach, not a head coach, because we're sharing with Florida and it was their franchise, but his willingness to do that and then move to CV. We didn't play our first home game last season until December 18th, so a lot of things went into it. So those are all factors as I'm looking as in this search and some of the attributes that he had that put him at the front of the line.
Mike Varell, Seattle Times. I have a question for Samantha, actually. I'm curious, they say a coach is only as good as their players, and how would you describe the commitment level of the ownership group just to continue to bring in players to help Dan win in the short term, as well as you mentioned earlier, continuing to develop younger players as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of pieces to make this a successful team, and Ron and Dan are fully aware of that too, and Dan is one part of that. We have a great group of folks up here in Seattle already, but there's other pieces we need to add as well, right? So I think more than one thing can be true, and we're going to work on all the different areas to continue to improve now.
Importance of relationships with this being the off season. I know some coaches go with letters, meetings, recommending books. How will you connect with your NHL roster going into next year?
Well, I gonna be going immediately back to the CV to get game one going underneath the way, but I will reach out to each and every one in due time. A few of them have already reached out, so if some of them we've had previous relationships with and have already started to develop those things. But I also think, having been in the organization for the past 3 years, I've talked with Jared McCann and I've talked with Ebbs and Matty Berniers, and I think I have a pretty good feel for them, and they have a pretty good feel for me, and so but that will continue. I will get to and reach out to everyone in due time.
Rob Simpson.
Took 11 minutes for Disco to come out.
I was on the ice interviewing you, one of the guys when you hoisted that cup, so obviously a vivid memory. I remember your joy.
Yes.
But two history questions. One, what also stands out from that team, obviously besides the talents of Sid, Gino, and Stalzy and Flower, the intangibles. You might be seeing it now in CV too that make it a championship roster. What other things are vivid? And then secondly, Coach York at BG, do you still carry anything from him forward all these years later in terms of influence or coaching?
Well, I'll answer Coach York first. He, I think he's texted, and we've texted back 2 or 3 times in the last 18 hours. And so that ability to establish a relationship and keep a relationship going, Coach York is the best at. And he's still, I said, he must text a million people. If he's texting me 3 times yesterday, he's doing it with hundreds and hundreds of other people in the game of hockey and people that he's coached. So that relationship.
Text me about Dan. So
yeah, he texted me and he said, "Do you mind if I text Ron?" And then immediately he sent back the text that he sent to Ron before I said that was okay. But the championship team that you're alluding to, I think the great thing about hockey is it's played with skill and speed and grace in a combination of competitive brawn and aggression, and when you look at that team, when you look at those guys, like just great competitors, and every great team has ultra competitive players, and every game that's won is won by the best competitor, and that's necessary and mandatory to win hockey games. And so you get the speed and skill and grace, but you need to have some tenacity and aggression alongside it to be an ultra competitive guy.
Zanebag, Davy Jones locker room. Have you had any conversations or discussions about Jessica Campbell's role in the future of this franchise?
Yes, as part of the conversations with Ron over the past little bit here, we've had numerous conversations and we've interviewed a couple times. So the staff and the coaching staff, Jay Leach and Laus are individuals I'd like to talk with here going forward. And the potential of bringing in someone else to the organization as well to complement the staff, to complement the players, to complement myself as a coach. And Jessica has been part of that conversation. Stu Bickle has been a part of that conversation. What they've done the last 2 years in developing the players down there, Ty Carte and Riker Evans is evidence of that. And so they are part of the conversation about going forward with the staff here.
Dan, Paul Sylvie from King 5.
How we doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Detroit fan, right?
We'll leave the Bowling Green connection out of this too.
Yeah, no, we won't. No, we won't.
I got to ask you, with all your experience as a head coach, with your previous stops, and your stops as an assistant head coach, what's been the most important thing you've learned and experience you can bring to building success on a team?
Bowling Green. No. It really goes back to my playing days, both on an individual standpoint and a team standpoint. And we talked a little bit about maybe how the old coaching style was back then. And as a player, I just wanted the coach to let me know what I needed to do, where I needed to go, how I needed to do it, and where I could get better, where I could improve, and I would take it from there. And so all along as a player, I kind of knew I was going to be a coach someday, because that's how I wanted my coach to be to me. And so it goes back to establishing relationships with the players and having clear expectations, and that goes as individually and for the team. And that's kind of my coaching style now. It's going to be high energy, and it's going to be, they're not going to question my energy at all. And they don't need to question what I expect of them and what I expect of the team at all as well. And we're going to get in that process together, and it's going to come out in some ultra competitive hockey.
Hey, Ron, Curtis Crabtree, Fox 13. Can you kind of walk us through the interview process that you had with the candidates you spoke to, how many you talked to, and kind of like what ultimately made the decision to land on Dan stand out from the other guys that you talked to throughout this?
Yeah, so I mean, we start with a long list. Some of them we've interviewed, a few years ago, so make the decision whether we want to go down that road again or not. I'm not one for doing an interview unless I think it's a serious interview. We talked to probably 5 guys that I thought were serious contenders for the job. As I said in my opening, I have utmost respect for all of those gentlemen. There's a lot of good coaches out there. But as I said in my discussions when I had the conversations with Dan and watching him work in Coachella Valley the last couple of years, the relationships he had with his players, the effort he got each and every night from his players, the way his teams played, and having discussions with him and how he thought our franchise would be and moving forward and working with our players, it became clear that he was the guy that we wanted to lead us at this point.
Darren Brown, Son of Hockey. Samantha, question for you. At this point in the juncture in the franchise, how important is this hire to kind of get this right?
Well, listen, I think we're still growing this franchise, right? And we have incredible fans, and we want to do right by them. They deserve the best, and we want to build our fan base. And we believe that Dan is a great piece of doing that. He can connect with the fans. You've seen him today. He knows hockey, but he's charismatic, and he will connect with the community. And we think it's really the right decision for our fans and for this franchise right now.
And Dan, for you, you took the role years ago now at Charlotte as an assistant coach. At that time, was this on your radar that one day this might happen, or was it really just for you, as you said earlier, trying to kind of reconnect with coaching?
No, was this on my radar. You could wonder why maybe my path led me to Charlotte, but really it was I was grateful to Ron at the time of just giving me the opportunity to coach again. And I had taken a few years off from being a head coach, and kind of really decided that I wanted to give one more go at being a head coach again. And that's really what led me to Charlotte. I did have an eye on CV. I will say that. I did have an eye on coaching in CV the following year. Obviously, there was a dual affiliation with Florida and the Kraken, and that led Charlotte. But I was really in Charlotte. I did have an eye on proving to Ron that I would be the guy to be the head coach in CV when the franchise started a year ago. So that was more in my thought at that period of time, but really just really more just wanting to connect with the players, connect with that relationship with the players in coaching that I think it can be and should be. That was where I was at really 3 years ago.
Bob Condor from the Seattle Kraken. Want to give your side of that first interview with Ron back in Carolina?
No, I don't, actually. I just think there's two sides to it, that's all.
We've moved on from it.
Yeah.
So, we're good.